If you laid all the blood vessels in the adult body end to end, they would span over 60,000 miles. It's a good thing our blood vessels aren't laid out end to end, because that's a long distance for a blood cell to travel with only the force of one heartbeat behind it. In practice, blood only travels from your heart to the tips of your toes or to the top of your head. A distance of 4 or 5 feet is not quite as impressive as 2.5 times the Earth's circumference. But it still requires a lot of effort on the part of our circulatory system. Having blood pressure helps.
Well, the heart is a pump, so it pumps the blood out through the arteries, which are like tubes that lead from the heart. So there has to be a certain pressure so the blood basically travels to the rest of the body.
Blood pressure is the force of blood pushing against the walls of the arteries. The heart creates blood pressure by pumping the blood. Blood pressure is highest at the start of the cycle, when the heart pumps blood into the aorta. The blood vessels maintain pressure with their elasticity, or their ability to relax or contract, which facilitates circulation. We measure blood pressure at 2 intervals with a sphygmomanometer.
But generally, what we consider normal nowadays would be less than 120/80. The top number is the pressure that is generated when the heart is contracting, and the bottom number refers to when the heart is at rest.
Defining healthy or normal blood pressure is individualized. Your doctor will consider a lot of risk factors such as age, family history, and the presence of other disease. In general, anything higher than 130/80 is diagnosed as hypertension or high blood pressure.
Hypertension is when that blood pressure inside the arteries is elevated. There are different guidelines which determine the exact numbers, but for each specific person, there really isn't one set number. It depends on a whole host of factors. So we can't just go by one number for everybody. It can vary, like I said, depending upon what other risk factors you may have.
Hypertension is known as the silent killer because you can have it and not know it. There are rarely symptoms. Yet while you're carrying on none the wiser, hypertension may be damaging the cardiovascular system and the internal organs.
The pressure inside those arteries is elevated. Organs can be damaged, specifically the brain, the kidneys. The heart muscle can be affected just because the pressure inside is elevated. It damages the inside of the lining of the arteries, and as a result can cause them to weaken. It can cause the heart muscle to thicken, and thereby affecting how it functions. And after a period of time, that elevated pressure would just damage some of the organs that I mentioned.
Over time, hypertension can lead to such catastrophic events such as heart failure and heart attacks, stroke, and kidney failure. Regularly checking blood pressure is vital to diagnosing hypertension early and implementing treatments that can prevent complications.
Initially, it's going to be diet and exercise, which would be part of any blood pressure regimen, actually. And then ultimately, if it remains elevated or it's high enough, you're going to need medication. There are a whole host of different medicines that work very differently depending upon what mechanism your doctor may think is responsible for your blood pressure, whether it's related to heart disease or kidney disease or age.
Nearly a third of all American adults have hypertension, and age is a significant risk factor. 63% of adults over age 60 have hypertension. The walls of our arteries lose that important elasticity as they age. They become stiffer and unable to relax, and that drives up blood pressure. While you can't stop the aging process, some types of hypertension can be managed with lifestyle and dietary choices.
Well, you can have different parents, which is going to be very difficult. Most of it is going to be genetic. Most people have what's called essential hypertension, which is basically, we don't know what causes it. So that's the majority of people with hypertension. You can lose weight, you can watch your salt intake, you can exercise, all those things will help lower the blood pressure.
The United States National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute recommends the DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. It focuses on fruit, vegetables, whole grains, and lean meats. A recent study found that fruits and vegetables are particularly important as they slow the loss of blood vessel function. Remember, you have a lot of blood vessels to maintain, 60,000 miles of them. Whoa, that's going to take a lot of fruit and vegetables. I'm Dr. Allison Suarez, and you're watching the eHealth Network. See you next time.